Welcome back. CSE 3200 Yukon Stores. We are in Chapter 4, Fragments. We're in Video 4. In the last video, we created a user interface for our fragment. And in this video, I hope to wrap up developing the fragment. We need to make the CrimeDetailFragment class, and then we need to wire up our views. We're going to wire up our views by going through the process of finishing the override the onCreated, and then we are going to override two more methods that you have not seen before that are for fragments, and they sound kind of similar. The second one is onCreateView, and the third is onViewCreated. So to recap, onCreate, onCreateView, and onViewCreated. And we're going to wire up our button and our text view, or our button, our edit text, and our checkbox. All right, I've already created the class for CrimeDetailFragment, and we are going to make it a subclass of fragment. And then we'll go override fun on create. And then we are going to make a crime object. Now I see I have an error here. We need to put parentheses there. All right, so we're going to make a crime object, and let's set that up. We'll say that this object will be late init, private late init var crime of type crime. And our crime class, if you recall, has this data. We're going to have a unique ID, a title, a date, and a Boolean for whether it is solved or not. So we are going to go with lowercase crime is equal to, let's create the crime with those four values. So we'll call it ID, and we'll set it equal to UUID dot random UUID, comma, and then our title. Set that equal to empty string, comma, and date will be equal to uppercase date, pren, comma, and is solved will be set to the default value of false because crimes aren't solved as soon as they start. Okay, so that's it for now for the onCreate. So let's move on to the next function. Before we do, I suppose I want you to note that there is no inflating the views here. This is the job of onCreateView. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with fragments. We are going to now override fun onCreateView. And most of what I get when I autofill is something that I want to keep in its entirety, except for what you see highlighted here right at the end. So we're going to get rid of that, and we are going to go with binding equals. But before we do that, I mean, I can set up binding equals, but I actually have not made my late init promise for the binding. So let's go up here, private late init var binding is going to be of type fragment crime detail binding. Fragment crime detail binding. Okay. Let's see. And I have got to come down here, I suppose, and finish this. This is going to be a fairly long line, so we might have to go on to the next line. Actually, we can probably fit it in here. So let's go fragment crime detail binding. let's see, dot bind, nope, I want dot inflate. And then it's going to have the layout inflator. And then it's going to have the container. We've seen the layout inflator before. It's the same layout inflator that we used in Chapter 2 and on. The container is the parent view, so that would be the host, the main activity. And then the last argument is going to be false. And this stands for, do we automatically want it to be shown? And that answer is no. We are going to take care of that in the on view created. So next line, return binding dot root. Okay, that's the on create. Let's see, 2 errors. All right, I misspelled late init. Does that take care of them? Yes, it does. Okay, so just a quick recap. What the on create view for is for inflating the view. We don't do that we don't do that explicitly in the on create method for a fragment. So we are going to now put in the binding for our, or we're going to wire up our edit text, our button, and our checkbox. And you'd think we could do that in the on create view, but we want to keep the on create view simple. We want it to have the sole job of inflating the view. So we are going to go override fun on view created. And what I have here looks good so far. So that's a fine way to start it. I don't need to make any changes there. And let's put in that we are going to wire up our edit text. And we're going to do that by going binding.apply. And then we're going to put a curly brace in. Crime title is going to be equal to, or sorry, crime title dot do on text changed. And I selected the wrong one, so we're going to put in the curly braces, and we're going to put argument text, comma, and then an underscore, comma, another underscore, comma, and another underscore. And then I'm going to put my arrow and enter. I'll explain those underscores in just a second. Now we set crime equal to crime.copy, and then put into the parentheses title is equal to text.toString. All right, so the dashes there for the, let's see, the dashes here in Kotlin, if you have a function that requires a certain number of parameters but you make no use of them, you can put a dash instead, and that just ignores those parameters. All right, so we have wired up our edit text. Now let's wire up our button. We're going to do that by going CrimeDate.apply, and then a curly brace, text is equal to crime.date.toString, and then is enabled is false. Everything is an error here because all of this needs to go into the binding.apply. So there, are my braces good? I think I have an extra brace, although it is not yelling at me This one may just need to be aligned. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so one more. We're going to wire up the checkbox. And we're going to do that by going crime solved dot set on checked changed listener. All right, good enough. Get rid of the parentheses, put the curly braces, let's see, and arguments of underscore, and then is checked, and then the arrow for our lambda function, crime, is equal to crime.copy. Passing in is solved, is equal to is checked. All right, got one more error. And it is that I misspelled is checked here. Okay, so that should do it for our fragment. We have it all set up, but we still have a little bit more to do. So we're going to have one more video in Chapter 9. I'll see you in that video.